You walk into a store next year, and right in front of you is Samsung's brand new Galaxy S26 Edge, slimmer than ever, packed with one of the most powerful chips ever made. And here as the kicker, it doesn't have the futuristic new battery everyone was hoping for. So did Samsung just play it safe, or did they actually outsmart Apple this time? Stick with me because the details here might surprise you. And if you're watching right now, don't click away. I promise you'll want to hear this comparison all the way through because it could change the way you think about thin phones forever. Alright, let's talk about what's really going on. Everyone's been buzzing about the possibility of Samsung switching to silicon-carbon batteries, those mythical cells that supposedly hold way more power in the same space. But the latest info from China's 3C certification tells a different story. The S26 Edge is sticking to good old lithium-ion. At first, that sounds a little disappointing. But before you roll your eyes and think this is just another year with the same old tech, wait for the twist. The battery in this phone comes in at a rated 4,708 mAh, marketed as 4,200. Compare that to last year's S25 Edge, which only had 3,900, and suddenly it doesn't feel so boring anymore. That's a real jump in capacity, and when you put it side by side with what Apple is rumored to be doing, things get even more interesting. Apple's next big thing, the iPhone 17 Air, is supposed to be paper thin. Like ridiculously thin, around 5.5 millimeters. That's crazy engineering, but with that thinness comes a price. A tiny battery, somewhere around 2,900 mAh. Now think about that. 2,900 on Apple's side, 4,200 on Samsung's. That's not just a small difference. That's hours of screen time, hours of freedom away from a charger. Sure, Apple is banking on iOS 26 with some clever battery-saving tricks, probably powered by AI algorithms that squeeze every last drop out of that smaller cell. And that sounds nice on paper, but let's be real. Do you actually trust software magic to fully replace raw battery capacity? Because when your phone dies in the middle of a road trip or a night out, all the marketing in the world doesn't help you. This is where Samsung really seems to shine. They're not promising something they can't deliver, they're giving us more actual power. Pair that with Qualcomm's upcoming Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, which will almost certainly be in the S26 Edge. And you've got a phone that's not only sleek, but also ridiculously strong, and here's what blows my mind. Rumors say Samsung is managing to fit this bigger battery inside a design that's just as slim as Apple's. Think about that. Apple says you can either have thin or big battery. Samsung is basically saying, why not both? That's not just clever. That's impressive engineering you'll actually notice in real life. Now, let me ask you, what do you really care about? Do you want the absolute thinnest phone out there? Something that looks like it belongs in the future, but struggles to last all day? Or do you want a phone that still feels slim in your hand, but can actually keep up with you without needing a charger before dinner? Because let's face it, ultra thin is cool, it looks good in ads. It feels futuristic when you first hold it, but when that battery percentage starts flashing red at 6 p.m., does that thinness still feel like an achievement? Or does it suddenly feel like a compromise? This is the big difference in philosophy right now. Apple is chasing thinness at all costs, hoping that smart software will cover the gaps. Samsung is playing the smarter card, balancing design with practicality. And the S26 Edge, at least on paper, feels like the sweet spot between beauty and brains, and honestly, I'm kind of relieved. Because if every company just kept shaving off millimeters without caring about how long the phone lasts, we'd all lose. I'd rather have a phone that actually survives a long day of travel or a weekend of heavy photo shooting than one that just wins a beauty contest. So credit where it's due, Samsung seems to be listening to what people actually want. Here's the exciting part though, if Samsung can pull this off now with a regular lithium-ion battery, imagine what happens when they finally do bring in those next-generation silicon-carbon batteries. That could completely change the way we use phones. No more counting percentages. No more panicking about chargers, just freedom. Meanwhile, Apple's going thinner and thinner. And maybe it'll work, because Apple is Apple and they know how to sell an idea. But when real people start comparing actual screen-on times, I have a feeling Samsung's decision will look smarter and more user-friendly. So where do you stand? Do you want that impossibly thin design, something that looks like it came out of a sci-fi movie, even if it means charging more often? Or would you rather your phone be slim enough but still reliable, something that can carry you through a busy day with confidence? Let me know in the comments, because I'm really curious how people see this trade-off. Personally, I think the S26 Edge might end up being one of Samsung's smartest moves in years, not because it reinvented the battery, but because it made the right choice for people who actually live with their phones every day. And if you've stayed with me this far, thank you. Seriously, I appreciate your time. Make sure to subscribe, because I've got plenty more deep dives and comparisons coming your way. And trust me, you're not going to want to miss what's next.